Okay, so this is a short tutorial on typography, specifically how to work with type in a way that visually gives meaning to the words rather than just literal. I want to show you how to work and think about type as a visual element rather than purely utilitarian. So I have some type here. Take risks, conquer your fears, and I want to uh, have you think about how you can make the title not just say what it means, but rather visually mean what it says. So, what that requires is that you examine the words and that you determine which ones are utilitarian and which ones actually carry the meaning. So, I have decided that the words uh, risks and conquer are the two words that I feel should be probably the most prominent and given the most emphasis. I understand that, the word fears is a very powerful word as well, but in this case and in this context, risks and conquer are about squashing down the fears. So that's why I want to kind of play off of these two words. So I'm going to do a few things that are going to make those two words a little bit more visually more interesting. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cap all of these. Next, I'm going to take them apart. The reason I am taking them apart is so that they're easier to work with. Okay, I'm going to leave your fears together because I think that I'm not going to separate those two. So I'm just going to move this over on to the pasteboard and out of the way. And now we can start actually working with the type that we have. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the default font, which is Myriad, into something a little bit more interesting. And that gives me a little more fonts to work with within inside of that font family. So I'm going to go for the first one. I'm going to keep it as sans serif, and I'm going to move into a Helvetica. Just a Helvetica New should be fine. And as you can see, inside of this font family, I have a lot of choices. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a condensed version. So I'm going to go with a 67 medium condensed. And obviously, I'm going to do the same thing with the word take. So I'm going to kind of split these two into take risks and then conquer your fears as two different sets of type faces. So I'm going to grab this and make both of them the Helvetica New. And I want to definitely make the word risks much more prominent because take really is a utilitarian word. So I'm going to make that 72 point. And then I'm going to leave in this take up, raised up a little bit so that instead of being down here, I think it has more interest visually up there. Okay, so got that. Now I'm going to look at these. And I'm thinking I'm going to go with a serif for this so that there is definitely a difference between the take risks and the conquer your fears. So I'm going to go with with Bodoni. And the reason that I'm going with Bodoni is because it has a lot of really interesting features to it. A lot of thick stems and a lot of thin stems. So it really stands out against the sans serif. And once again, I'm going to make it a 72 point. So that is about the same size visually as the take risks. As a matter of fact, it might be just a little bit bigger. Make it just a little bit smaller. And I'm also going to make your fears a Bedonia as well, only a lot smaller. Visually, probably about the same size as the take. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, where am I going to place this? When I place the take up here, which is raised up, I'm going to think about this little Q has a tail, and maybe I can attach this letters to that Q so that we know that those two kind of go together. I'm going to increase this size because I feel like the take is bigger than the your fears. So I'm going to make this one just a little bit bigger, maybe like that. Okay, so I have this going on, and so there are some dynamics already that are taking place, but I think I want to make it look like the risks and the conquer go together even more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my line tool and I'm going to make a diagonal so that I can make those two kind of blend together more. I'm going to make that line black and maybe increase the stroke rate just a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm thinking about chopping off some of this letter S and some of the letter below from conquer, from the letter C, and I am going to place them on this diagonal line and see if I can make these work a little more dynamically together. There's risks and the conquer. They come in a little closer. And what I'd have to do to be able to kind of cut these letters up a little bit is I have to convert them into image rather than a text to get that kind of work with it. Okay, so I think about right there might be interesting. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my letters, my word risk and conquer, and along with this stroke, and I'm going to expand them. I'll click OK, and now I can be able to use my shape builder tool and delete a few of the shapes. So if I select all three of these pieces, I can go over to it, click my Option key, and delete that. And then on the side, delete that. And so let's take a look at what we have. So right now, already, we have something that's a lot more dynamic. The risks and the conquer feel like they go together. The take and your fears are much smaller. So if you look at the two of these next to each other, here's the original, and here is the finished piece. And visually, this is accomplished what I wanted to by, bringing out certain words and emphasizing certain words and making more prominent than others. I think now visually it tells the story a little bit better. Okay, so that's all I have today, and I hope you enjoyed it, and perhaps we'll have a few more tutorials coming up in the future. Thanks.